Eruvin. Okay? Do you have to do something, Mario? Mario.
Mario, you're mute.
Go on. It's done.
So I'm gonna start taping the next blot, okay?
Yes.
Okay. So we're on Samech Beis 62. Eruvin. Yosef Abai Baravin Rav China Baravin. The two Amiroim were sitting. The Yosef Abai Gabai. Abai was sitting with them. The Yosef Kamri. Bishlam Rab Meir Ksavar. The Betanakama held Diras Nochri Shma Dira. That the dwelling of a Nochri is a Dira. Veloishna Chad, Veloshna Trey. That means it's a Dira whether there's one Jew there or two Jews there. And that's why if it's a Dira, it's going to answer no matter what. El Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Mike Sovar. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, who said that a Gentile only prohibits if there's two Jews. What's he holding? If a dwelling of a Gentile is considered a dwelling, so why afilu chad nami nitzer? So why wouldn't he prohibit even if one Jew was living there? Because he's not participating in the Eruv, he can't participate. The ilosh madira, and if the dira of a Gentile is not a dira, so afilu trei nami lo nitzer. So it shouldn't answer even two people. Abaya, the Savar Rab Meir Diras Nachri Shma Dira. Does Rab Meir hold that a dira of a Nachri is considered a dira? Batanya Chatzer Shel Nachri Harehu Kedir Shel Behema. It's like a corral, based on basically how they act there, and therefore it doesn't aser. So why? So what? So how? What's the sheet of Rab Meir? Really, it's not considered a dira. So rather, the gzeira shema yilmad bimasav kamiflagi. There's a gzeira that by living in a chutzner where there's a Gentile there, you're going to learn from his ways. Eliezer ben Yaakov savar kivan denachri chashud ashvichus damim. Now, general Gentiles was always a concern that they're going to murder you. They had a very low threshold to kill people. So trey the shchichi the diary. So two people. So therefore, Jews, if they were going to live there were always going to be two of them, because they could protect each other, and that's a davar shchiach gazru behu. So the gzeira of not living in such a place was there. They made this gzeira as well, making it hard to do an Erev Chatzeros. You got to do schiris. So they tried to discourage Jews from living in Chatzeros where there were Gentiles. However, Chad, to find a situation where one Jew was living in a courtyard with a non-Jew, that's a lo shchiach. In Chazal have a rule: if it's a thing that's not shchiach, they make no gzeiros there. Lo gazu b'rabbanan. That's the way Rabbi Eliezer learned. Rav Meir said, no, zin in the mikra v'dayer. It's not automatic. Sometimes a Jew thinks he's tough and he's going to live there even if he's a single guy. So therefore, the gzeira applies whether there's one Jew or two Jews, doesn't make a difference. The Amru Rabbanon ein eruv moil b'makom nachri. The Chachamim made that rule that an eruv doesn't work with a nachri. It's there to discourage people from living there. Ve'ein bittul rishus moil b'makom nachri ad sheyaskir. We did not give the option of bittul rishus to goyim. There you had to rent from them. They had to rent his share in the chutzner. The nachri lo mugar. The Gentile didn't want to do it. He didn't want to rent. There were two reasons. My time. For example, the Gentile might not want to rent to you because he's concerned he's not going to take it back. You're going to be machzik in his reshus. That svara only works that when we say you have to do schiris, it had to be a real schiris, not a joke schiris. And therefore, we'll see what bria means and non-bria means in a minute. But it had to be a schiris bria, a healthy one. El mandam schiris ru'ua be'inan. But those that say that it was just a very minimal schiris, so why would the non-Jew have a concern of renting to you? Michael Amemar. Now, where do we see this concept? The Itmar. Rav Chizda Amar schiris bria. That when, in order for the Eruv to take hold, it had to do schiris bria from the non-Jew. Rav Sheshes Amar schiris ru'ua. No, it's a weak schiris. So, Freit the Gemara, ma ru'ua ma bria. What's an example? What's a ru'ua ma bria? Now, ilema bria is bepruta, and ru'ua is pachos mishava pruta. That means the schiris, a bria schiris, is a pruta or more, and ru'ua is pachos mishava pruta. That's not correct. You show me a shita that holds that by a non-Jew, pachos mishava pruta is not considered an important thing. He says beferush that you could rent even less than a shava pruta. So the sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, anytime a non-Jew violates, they get capital punishment. Now they have gzela; they're not allowed to steal. Now Jews' rule of stealing has to be more than a shava pruta, but Ben Noach is killed even for less than a shava pruta. V'lo nitin li shavon, even if he returns it, he still gets killed. So we see that the notion of shava pruta is still an important thing by non-Jews. Ella bria is b'mohurke v'aburgani. Means you have to write it down like a star. And the ru'ua is below mohorke v'aburgani. Okay. So then you have a reason why the non-Jew would not want to rent to you. So he's not going to be afraid of that you're going to be machzik in the end because you have no document. Michael Amemer. Somehow there was a concern that you would do some kind of kishuf through renting from him. So they didn't rent it. And since they didn't rent it easily, Jews would not live there. So it was a mechanism to prevent Jews from living with Goyim. Gufa. We mentioned in passing, Chatzeru shel Nochri harehu kedir shel behema, that a dwelling of a Gentile is like a dir shel behema. Umuter lachnis lotzim min chotzer lebatim, umin batim lechotzer. So you can take from his house into the chotzer, from the chotzer into his house. The dinim of Eruv don't apply to his place. If there's one Jew who lives there, oiser, the Gentile prevents the Jew from carrying into his chotzer. Unless you rent it from him, they're Reb Meir. Omar Mar. So we said it's not a real dira. How could you say it's not a dira? He prohibits you if you live with him. So Gemara says, Loi kasha, ha de'isei, ha de'lesei. When he answers, if he's physically there, then he prohibits. When the Nachri doesn't prohibit, he's not there. So the Gemara says, Mike Sover. So what's the Shita? Iksav a dira below Baalim Shma dira. That a dira that doesn't have people living there is considered a dira, afilu Nachri nami nitzer. So then the Nachri who's not there should also ask him. Iksav a dira below Baalim Loshma dira, afilu Yisrael nami lo nitzer. So if a Jew, why do you have to, like when a Jew is not physically there, why do you have to do bittul rishus? If when the Bailim are not there, it's not considered a dira, then why should a Jew aser? So the Gemara answers, Lolam ksav dira beloy balim loshma dira. A dira without people actually physically there on Shabbat, it's not considered a dira. The Yisrael, the chi is say asar, it's if Yisrael is there, then he prohibits. And kilesa, if he's not there, gazru be rabbana. Chacham made a gzeira. So whether he's there or not there, the Jew asers. Nachri the chi is say when the nachri is there, gzeir shama yilim imasav. We have this gzeir. We don't want the Jews to live with a goyim. However, there ki is say asar, but kilesa lo asar. That gzeir was only extended to when he was physically there. When he's not physically there, we don't extend the gzeir. Freit the Gemara v'chilesa lo yasar. What do you mean? We don't prohibit when he's not there. I'll show you that we do. Vatnan. Hamaniach is based so. Person leaves his house on Shabbos. He goes on a vacation to a different city on Shabbos. Echad Nachri ve'echad Yisrael oyser de Rab Meir. He says that a Nachri, even if he's not there, if you were not soicher from him, he answers. So says Hasan dasa biyami. You know what? Because the non-Jew can arrive on Shabbos. He can travel. He doesn't have the stringency of not being able. A Jew can't arrive. That a non-Jew only answers if there are two Jews living together. Ravuna Amar Mina Rabbi Yezer ben Yaakov. Ravuna said the custom is Rabbi Yezer ben Yaakov. Rav Yechon Amar Nagu Am Rabbi Yezer ben Yaakov. In fact, the Shulchan Aruch says, "Ein nachri oyser elim ken hayu b'makom shnei Yisraelim oyser zel zeh shalachik Rabbi Yezer ben Yaakov." And if a Jew travels to another city, if he's not going to come back, he doesn't prohibit. But a non-Jew who can come back, he asers, even if it was a different city. So the Rosh says, the Rambam says that even if it's a different city, the Goy asers. The Rosh is more makel, and the Ramah paskin like the Rosh, so we're more makel, that if the non-Jew has traveled very far away, he doesn't prohibit. We have in our hands Mishnahs from Eliezer ben Yaakov Kavanaki. Whenever we have a Mishnah from Eliezer ben Yaakov, it's clean, and halach is always like him. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Uri b'mokom rabo. Can you paskin even if his Rebbe is there? Can a Talmud paskin when a Rebbe is there? Normally, a Talmud cannot paskin with his Rebbe there. Amar le afilu be'asa b'kuscha bo minei Rav Chizda kol shani de Rav Huna v'lo Uri. That means when they would ask a simple question, can you cook an egg in kutach, which was milachix? Now an egg is not fleishik. That's one pshat. So that's a simple halacha. So Ilchora, Rav Chizda could have answered that, but while his Rebbe, Rav Huna, was alive, he never paskin in front of him because Asr l'tamid l'har is b'makam rabo. Some hold that this refers to an egg that was still attached to the chicken inside the chicken. And then there's a debate whether it's fleishik or not. So it's a little bit more complicated halachic question. But either way, he did not answer while his Rebbe was alive. What about, we have Megillas Tainis. That was a Tanaitic document that existed from like 150 BCE, very early, and in it, there were many days that you could not fast, and some days you could fast. It was like Purim and Chanukah are listed there, and others. The only holidays that remain from Megillah's Tainis is Purim and Chanukah. So it's written very clearly what the halacha is there. Ma'al uri ba'asri de Rabbi. Could you publicize that halacha where your Rebbe is? That this question of an egg in Kutach, boy, he didn't answer. Even though Rav Chizda oire bekafri b'shayin Rav Huna, that in Cyprus, or whatever the city Kafri is, he did paskin. Even Rav Huna was out, because Rav Huna was not there. He's very far away from there. Rashi says, Shem Makom, V'loya Makom Shel Rav Huna. His Rav Huna was in Pumbedisa. Oh, here's Kafri is in Bavel, so it's not Cyprus, obviously. Rav Amnuna Ori, let's just finish Samech Gimel. Rav Huna Ori B'charta the Argis B'shayin Rav Chizda. Rav Amnuna paskin in Charta, another city, while Rav Chizda was alive, even though he was his Rebbe. Shulchan Aruch says, "Asr l'tamid l'oros klal ifnei Rabbo." Talmid cannot paskin if his Rebbe is there. L'chol kach nenash b'dei shamayim. He gets punished from heaven. V'af netilas reshus. Even if you ask permission from your Rebbe, einu ma'ila b'toch sholosh paros m'Rabbo. If you're within 3 parsos, that's 12 kilometers. That's what the Ramah says. Okay, so we caught up. We did 2 blocks.